In this video, I'm going to show you how to escape tackle in certain situations. This isn't going to work all the time. It's only going to work sometimes for specific situations. Now, it's not foolproof, but it's something that's good to know, and it's worthwhile. And in some cases, it will save your life. So, one way to escape tackle is to shoot the target. We can't do that because the alt that I'm on right now has no skills for combat or anything like that. He's in a terribly fit Caracal, and he can't use the missiles or anything like that. This alt's not used for combat, so whatever. He's used just as a way to demonstrate this tactic. Most likely, your pilot will be better skilled and better able to execute this tactic. But where this tactic works, it's called bouncing or yo-yoing, and where it works best is when something's kiting you. So you can see this interceptor, a Baden 21, is kiting me. He's staying at range and pointing me, and if I had DPS, I'd shoot at him and try to force him to warp away. I don't have DPS or any way to shoot at him, so what I'm left with is to try to either bounce or yo-yo him off of me. And let's just say bounce, because that's a little bit more better, a better explanation of what it is. So you can also bounce people into web or scram range if you want to get a web or scrammed, so you can get in close on a kiting target like this. For example, if I was in a Tyrannus and there was this interceptor who was pointing me at 20k, I could try to bounce that interceptor into point range, web range, and get the scram on him. It would be a scram for a Tyrannus. Get the scram, lock him down, and then kill him. But in this case, we want to try to bounce him out of range, out of his lock range, or out of his point range so that we can escape. Now, interceptors, most likely you're going to bounce him out of his lock range because their lock range is pretty bad. But for another ship, let's say it was a Tech 1 cruiser or something like that, a Tech 2 cruiser even, that was kiting you and only had a 24k point range, you have a good chance of knocking them outside their point range. So what you want to do to bounce is, ideally you want to find two objects in space. You want to find something behind you. Let's see. Well, we've got that gate there. That would work. Or this belt over here. And something in front of you that you'd actually really like to go to. Either one's going to be okay, because if you went to the belt, you could just then quickly warp away before you figured out what's going on and got there. But you pick two things ideally. If there's not two things, you can just pick the one thing in front of you and then just go to nothing behind you. But what you want to do, let's just do the one thing, is you want to start moving in the direction away from the item that you, or the warpable that you actually want to warp to. Keep an eye on his range. And then you want to have the station or whatever you've selected, and you want to turn suddenly. Now you can also watch where he's at. So I'm going to watch and wait for him to start moving away from that station, and then I'm going to align to it, hit the micro warp drive. So I'm changing direction quickly. I'm using his speed against him, and I'm hoping that I can bounce him out of lock range. Let's see if I can. Getting close, 28, 29. Did I get it? I got it. Active. All right, so what I did there is I used his velocity against him in order to make him stretch his orbit outside of his lock range. Now, a good interceptor pilot, that was just an automated orbit. A good interceptor pilot is going to be watching for that kind of thing, and they're going to alter their orbit. Once they see you trying to bounce, they're going to come in for a tighter orbit, say an orbit of 15, 16, 17, 18, to try to prevent you from doing that. A better fit interceptor, that's an interceptor I just threw together really quick, would have a lock range, a way to extend his lock range, whether being in a fleet or having a rig that extends lock range. Some of the interceptors are worse than others at lock range and benefit more from a lock range rig. So a good interceptor pilot's going to be able to counter that, and you're not going to get away. But I'd say 80% of the interceptor pilots out there or more are going to just lock in that automated orbit. They're just going to hit orbit at 20 or 18 or whatever they happen to hit. Orbit, that's it, automated orbit, and then touch nothing. If you bounce them, they're not going to have any idea what just happened, and you're going to escape. So it doesn't always work quite that easily. I kind of set that up to make it a little bit more filmable so that it would happen on demand. But it's something that does work a lot of the time, especially for targets that aren't interceptors. Let's say you have a kiting frigate that's not an interceptor, something less agile than an interceptor, then it's going to work a lot better for those less agile ships, because what you're really doing is you're using the changing of direction as a way to get away from them by making them fly in one direction and then rapidly changing direction in another direction. They've got to lose all that velocity, reverse velocity, and start coming back again towards you, which often causes them to extend out to a range they didn't want to be at, and thus giving you the option to warp away when they lose point or lose lock range. In most other examples, they're going to lose point because the Warp Disruptor 2 is only 24K. But in this case, with an interceptor, the lock range on the Malediction is only, with skills, around 28K unmodified. So in that case, you're able to break the lock range much easier than the point range, which is extended to 30K on a Malediction. So it's a quick, easy trick to escape tackle that could and probably will save your life at some point.